Welcome to another My Friendly IT Guy video. In the next series of episodes, we're going to be looking at computer hardware. Today, we're going to focus on servers and how they differ to desktop computers and what they do and what they are. So let's have a look. Alright, so let's cover some of the basics. First of all, we've got a desktop computer here on the left. So basically it's a tower, it's got a keyboard and a mouse and a monitor, headphones, possibly some speakers, and basically it's designed for home use. So you run your applications, your Microsoft Office, your web browsers, your YouTubes, all your other things that you do on a computer at home, the same thing you do on a laptop. It's basically designed for home use. It doesn't have very powerful components when compared to a server. They're much cheaper than a server, designed for the average user. And typically a powerful gaming computer will cost you, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 Australian. Now a basic server will cost you at least $10,000, $12,000, if not $20,000. There's a massive difference in the quality of the parts, the components, and basically everything. A server is designed to be redundant. It's designed to keep going if parts of it fall over and break. Let's have a quick dive into what a desktop PC is, and we'll jump into the servers. So what is a desktop PC? Well, as you can see, if you just type that into a Google and you look at the images, they all look pretty much the same, the same components. The big difference with a server is usually you don't even have a keyboard and mouse. Okay, so basically you're running just a rack mounted server, something like this, any of these pictures. It's basically a flat piece of metal, I guess you can call it, a chassis. It's not a tower that you can stand up on your desk. It's not something that looks pretty or is designed to be pretty. It's designed to be functional. So basically when you think of a data center, you've got a series of rack cabinets that make up the data center. Those rack cabinets are usually owned by different tenants, different companies, and so on. Usually, an aisle of racks will be the same tenant, the same company, obviously, for security reasons and so on. But basically you want to try and maximize that space because, these servers run extremely hot. That's another big difference. Desktop computers these days now have water cooling, which is great. You need that for gaming, but servers run extremely hot. And so basically the reason you have a data center is so that, one reason is security, but you want to have powerful air conditioning. There are two aisles, usually in a data center. So here we can see in this picture, this is the front aisle. It's basically where you can access all of the servers from the front. In the back, that's the hot aisle, and that's where all the heat comes out of the servers, and that's where the air conditioning needs to be pointed at and do its job to cool down the air around the server and make the whole thing cool down. There's a good picture. It's just a ton of rack mounted devices. Even more so here. Massive difference when you compare that to simple kind of computer setup that you've got at home on your office desk. So that's basically it. We can look at some version numbers here that I've recorded over the years. I'm not going to cover the Microsoft DOS 3.1 and 3.11 for workgroups kind of version numbers, but starting from 2000s we can see they started from version 5.0, and as we hit XP, Windows Vista, Windows 7, Windows 8, and even 8.1, we're still only on version 6, and now Windows 10, including Windows 11 and the latest Windows Server operating systems, 2016, 19, and 22, they're all classified as version number 10. So how do you see which version you've got? It's very straightforward. Okay, so all you need to do is press the Windows button and R. That'll bring up a run prompt, and just type in CMD if you want to open up command prompt, or just directly type in MS Info 32, Microsoft Information 32-bit. And if you open that up, you will see the system summary of the hardware and software as well, the entire thing. And here you can see version 10.0.22,000, build 22,000. Now, another way to do this as well, which doesn't show you the same information, it's a little bit more generic, but you can type in Windows version. And if you open that up, it will give you some basic information. But we can see here the build is 22,000.978. We don't see the Windows version number. You can also hold down the Windows button and press the pause break button, and that will bring up a system information window, and here we can see you've got Windows 11 Home Edition and the OS build experience 10.0.0. Some of the decimals I guess are missing, but you can see that it's the same numbers, 2200.978. That's 3 ways to check which OS version you've got. I'll run through some more basics, bring this up on the screen. I've kind of covered some top items here. Servers can be physical or virtual. So we saw the image of a physical server here. It's a giant rack mounted device that is very heavy, costs a lot of money, and so on. So some of the other differences between a desktop computer and a server is basically that a server runs, well, they both run Windows operating systems. However, they have vastly different feature sets. So for example, with a server, you can have, a file server, IIS web server, so Internet Information Services server, which basically allows you to host web applications like websites and so on. You can also have print servers. There are SCCM servers for patching your entire server fleet. So you might have one server that is patching all the other servers. You might have a SCOM, so System Center Operation Manager, which basically is like a monitoring software from Microsoft that allows you to monitor all of your other servers from one server. Another main difference between, desktop PCs and servers is that servers have very different internal hardware compared to a desktop computer. They have enterprise-grade components, a lot of redundancy in all of their components. So for example, they've got two power supplies usually. So if one PSU, power supply dies, you have a second one, and of course, monitoring will allow you to be alerted of that power supply dying, so you'll know that you have to go arrange another one and go replace it, but the server will continue to do its job. However, with a desktop computer, if your power supply dies, well, that's it. Your PC is dead until you go down to the computer store and buy yourself a new power supply or get them to fix it. Another main difference is the fact that they have multiple CPU sockets. So with a typical desktop computer or gaming PC, you've got one CPU socket. So it's basically one physical location where you can stick a CPU onto that and allow the computer to, have a brain, basically. With a server, they can have 2 or 4, 8. 2 sockets is the most common. It starts getting expensive, obviously, and you've got multi-core CPUs. So you've got, a CPU, but it's multi-cored. It's like layered, like a cake, for example. Basically, you've got multiple CPUs. Now, also RAM. Your gaming computer will typically have 16, 32, maybe 64 gigabytes of RAM versus a server, which I've seen servers that have 768 gigabytes of RAM, and they're basically hypervisors, so running Hyper-V or VMware or Cisco UCS, for example, and they can have even terabytes of RAM if you can afford it, but it gets very costly very quickly. So that there's a kind of you've got a balancing act. Can you afford that much RAM? Is it worth it? Have you spec'd out your virtual machines on that physical server so that they're utilizing that expensive resource adequately, or are you wasting your money because you've thrown 50 gigabytes of RAM at every single virtual server and suddenly you've run out of RAM on the physical server, but all of the virtual servers running on that are completely underutilized. They're using 5% of what they have been allocated. So there's a lot of consideration when designing a server. It's not just buy a server and install a whole bunch of virtual machines on it and off you go. You need to do some groundwork and make sure that everything is spec'd out correctly so that you're not wasting your money. That's usually the biggest hurdle, I guess. Enterprise grade hardware, for example, is another one. So hard disks in a desktop gaming computer will cost a couple of $100, whatever it is. In a server, it could be thousands of dollars for one hard disk, and that's not only because they're enterprise grade. They're designed to spin faster and last longer and spin 24/7 for years on end without a break, but they also come with service level agreements with the manufacturer. So if they do die or suffer some kind of hardware failure or start alerting you that there are issues, that there are disk write errors and read errors and so on, you'll be notified that disk is potentially going to die anytime now, and you can organize the manufacturer to come out with warranty replacement disk free of charge. So, and these agreements are in place for years on end. So it's a difference between your enterprise grade server versus a gaming computer or just general desktop PC. Servers also come with remote access ports, which your desktop PC doesn't have. So HPs, for example, they have ILO, which is the integrated lights out component. Dell servers come with a DRAC, Dell remote access controller, and IBM also have the RSA2, the remote server admin component. So basically this is like a integrated built-in additional network card in the server that you connect up to your switches, and basically if the server is powered off or it's died or whatever it is, as long as it still has power going to it, you can actually get onto that server. Even if Windows is turned off, you can actually access that server through the ILO or the DRAC or the RSA, the remote server admin tools, and power it on or reboot it or check diagnostics and things like that, or run a diagnostic scan and provide the logs to the manufacturer. So the remote access ports are an amazing technology and vital in a professional environment because you need to be able to access things quickly, and data centers are usually remote. remote. They're not, across the road or a taxi drive away. They are usually quite far away for costing reasons. So I think we've covered most of the basics. I'll see if I can make another video and we'll dive deeper into servers in the next one. I hope you enjoyed. Like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys very soon. Thanks so much for watching.